The knock on the door came just as Marcus Reed was closing a big deal over the phone. His heart sank when he saw Sarah, the CEO's assistant, standing there with that familiar, dreaded look. "Mr. Reed, the CEO would like to see you in the boardroom at 2 p.m., she said quietly. Marcus swallowed hard, knowing what was coming. After 15 years leading Oakridge Publishing's Midwest sales division, building it from a struggling region into the company's powerhouse, this was the moment it all unraveled. Marcus Walsh wasn't your typical exec obsessed with flashy digital tools or marketing algorithms. He was old school, handshakes, dinners with clients, remembering their kids' names, and showing up in person when it mattered. His division alone generated 60% of the company's entire revenue, but none of that seemed to matter anymore. Veronica Bennett, the new CEO, had stormed in 6 months ago from a tech firm out west, armed with buzzwords like digital disruption and transformation. To her, Marcus's methods were relics of the past, outdated and inefficient. The boardroom was sleek, cold, and unfamiliar. Veronica's words hit like a punch. "We're moving in a new direction. Your leadership style doesn't fit. We need digital-first thinking." Marcus nodded, held back the urge to argue, and quietly shook her hand. 15 years ended in 15 minutes. Outside, his phone buzzed relentlessly, missed calls from Thomas Franklin, his biggest client. Loyalty wasn't to the company anymore, it was to Marcus himself. And that was just the beginning. Marcus Reed had started at Oakridge Publishing when it was still called Midwest Literary Partners, a modest operation with fewer than 30 employees and a smattering of regional clients. Back then, Marcus was fresh from Heritage Books, a once respected publisher swallowed by the corporate giants. He had walked away from a cushy corner office and a 6-figure salary because he hated what the big publishing houses had become: soulless, data-driven machines that forgot books were made by people for people. Robert Oakridge himself had hired Marcus personally. "We don't need someone who can just crunch numbers," Robert had told him in their first meeting. "We need someone who understands that the heart of publishing beats in the relationships behind the scenes." Those words became Marcus's guiding star. For 5 years, he rebuilt the sales division from the ground up, driving his car over 70,000 miles, visiting independent publishers across Ohio, Indiana, and Nebraska. He knew his clients beyond business. He celebrated their weddings, comforted them at funerals, and cheered at their retirement parties. His approach wasn't strategy, it was authenticity. By the time Robert retired and his son William took the reins, Marcus's division had grown 400%. William respected his methods and left him to run things his way. But 3 years ago, whispers of change started swirling through board meetings. The word "antiquated" popped up more than once. Questions about social media presence and CRM optimization dominated conversations. Marcus's trusted assistant, Jacob, was pulled into strategy meetings Marcus wasn't invited to anymore. They're planning to split the digital sales team from the traditional. Jacob confided nervously. Marcus tried to brace himself, but the cracks were spreading fast. New hires in digital engagement appeared on his team without warning. Long-term clients began being reassigned to unfamiliar faces. Thomas Franklin, a client Marcus had nurtured for over a decade, called him personally, frustrated and confused after being handed off to a young account manager who couldn't grasp the nuances of their partnership. Marcus felt like a relic, a man being edged out by algorithms and metrics that didn't capture the human essence of his work. Yet, despite the looming storm, Marcus stayed grounded. He knew the value of what he had built: trust, loyalty, and deep-rooted connections. The real battle wasn't with Veronica Bennett or the board. It was with a culture that had forgotten the soul behind the numbers. He watched the dismantling quietly, holding on to the belief that true relationships couldn't be replaced by software or slick presentations. And when the day came that Veronica summoned him to that cold boardroom, Marcus understood that the war was lost. But the story was far from over. The morning after Marcus's termination felt surreal. He sat alone in his home office, the weight of the past 15 years pressing down like the Indiana summer heat outside. His phone buzzed relentlessly. 17 missed calls, 32 texts, 6 emails marked urgent, all from clients and colleagues who had caught wind of the news. But Marcus hadn't told anyone yet, not even his wife Catherine, who was visiting their daughter in Columbus. He needed time to process, to plan. Finally, a call from Thomas Franklin broke the silence. "What the hell happened, Marcus?" Thomas demanded, skipping pleasantries. Marcus gave him the usual corporate line. The company was moving in a new direction, but Thomas wasn't buying it. You are that company to most of us. Did they ever stop to think about that? Thomas had met with the new regime, sat through presentations filled with analytics and engagement metrics, but not once was he asked about the historical fiction imprint Marcus had poured his heart into. That book line was make or break for us this year, Thomas said. Marcus closed his eyes, exhausted, not from sleep, but from the weight of being misunderstood. They'll figure it out, Thomas, he murmured. No, they won't, Thomas shot back. People like that don't learn what matters. They just impose their system and expect everyone to adapt. The call ended, and Marcus opened his laptop to the severance package Oakridge had sent him. 6 months' pay, 3 months of health insurance, a non-disparagement clause, and a non-compete preventing him from working with any of their clients for a year. He nearly laughed. Did they really think a single document could sever the bonds he'd built? Later that day, a text came from Eleanor Jenkins at Riverstone Press. I heard what happened, she said. It's their loss. When you're ready to talk about what's next, call me. By evening, 12 major clients, representing more than 40% of Oakridge's annual revenue, had reached out with similar sentiments. Loyalty to Marcus, not the company. That evening, Marcus sat in his backyard, nursing a bourbon, turning over a seed of an idea that had taken root that morning. The company had discarded him for being too old school, for relying on relationships instead of data. But what if those old school methods were exactly what those clients valued? What if his so-called weakness was actually his greatest strength? He dialed his attorney, Benjamin Wace. Ben, I need you to review this non-compete, he said. Benjamin was surprised. They really let you go. They did, Marcus said. And it might be the best thing that's ever happened to me. Over the next several days, Marcus and Benjamin pored over the non-compete agreement in detail. To their relief, the clause was largely unenforceable. The language was too broad and the duration unreasonably long. Most importantly, it couldn't prevent Marcus from using his general industry knowledge and skills to offer consulting services. Benjamin cautioned, however, that even with this legal advantage, Oakridge Publishing had deep pockets and wouldn't hesitate to drag him into costly litigation if he pushed too hard. Marcus considered his options carefully. Instead of directly approaching any of Oakridge's clients and risking a protracted legal battle, he decided on a more subtle approach. He officially established Walsh Publishing Consultants, a legal entity capable of accepting payments and providing services, but without any website, marketing, or active outreach. His plan was to remain available, ready to consult when approached, rather than aggressively pursuing former clients. It wasn't long before his old friends started calling. Thomas Franklin was the first. I hear you've set something up, Thomas said bluntly. News travels fast in this business, Marcus smiled. It sure does. Thomas confided his frustrations with Oakridge's new direction. Their push towards academic markets clashed with his instincts to focus on their successful historical fiction line. I need someone who understands both the numbers and the readers, Thomas said. Marcus listened carefully and proposed a consulting arrangement tailored to help Thomas and a small group of trusted publishers navigate this digital upheaval without violating the terms of his non-compete. Within days, Eleanor Jenkins of Riverstone Press joined the conversation, adding valuable insights. She suggested forming a cooperative platform, a consortium of independent publishers pooling resources and market intelligence while maintaining their autonomy. Marcus was intrigued. This was more than consulting. It was an opportunity to build something new from the ashes of his old role. Marcus also consulted Benjamin again to ensure the consortium wouldn't breach any contractual restrictions. Benjamin confirmed that as long as the group operated independently and publishers voluntarily joined, it was legally sound. Within 2 weeks, Walsh Publishing Consortium was born with 7 founding members, all former Oakridge clients or contacts. Each contributed to an operational fund to support Marcus's salary and basic infrastructure. The group rented a modest office in Indianapolis, away from the corporate hubs of the big publishing houses. Marcus hired 2 staff, a recent college graduate to handle communications and social media, and a seasoned publishing operations manager who had retired but wasn't ready to stop working. Word spread quickly through the tight-knit publishing community. By the end of the first month, 3 more publishers had joined the consortium. By the second month, they needed larger space. The consortium wasn't just filling a market gap. It was revitalizing relationships and approaches that Oakridge had discarded in favor of flashy digital trends. As the Walsh Publishing Consortium grew, so did the tension with Oakridge Publishing. Word reached Marcus that Veronica Bennett, Oakridge's CEO, was furious about the consortium's success and was preparing legal threats to undermine it. Jacob, Marcus's former assistant director who had reluctantly taken Marcus's old position, warned him cautiously one evening. "They know what you're doing. Veronica's talking about lawsuits. It's going to get ugly," he said in a hushed tone. Marcus listened calmly, knowing the legal threats were more bark than bite. But he appreciated the warning. The board meeting the next day confirmed the storm brewing inside Oakridge. Quarterly reports showed a sharp decline in revenue, driven largely by a mass exodus of longtime clients loyal to Marcus and his team. Veronica blamed the dip on market disruption and transitional challenges, refusing to acknowledge the real cause, the loss of relationships that had sustained Oakridge for decades. Meanwhile, Marcus and the consortium members focused on building something Oakridge could never replicate, a cooperative structure that balanced independence with shared resources. No fancy titles or hierarchical egos ruled their space. Marcus was the facilitator, a connector who understood each member's needs and how to bring publishers together in mutually beneficial ways. The consortium's modest office in Broad Ripple became a buzzing hub of collaboration and innovation. The team welcomed new members, publishers who'd been disillusioned by corporate restructuring and digital-first strategies that ignored the human element. The word spread quickly through industry circles, and the consortium gained a reputation as a refreshing alternative, one built on trust, respect, and personal connections. Jacob eventually approached Marcus, his voice tinged with relief and hope. "I've reached my limit here. Can I join you?" he asked one afternoon. Marcus smiled, knowing the consortium was more than a business. It was a community that understood the value of loyalty and relationships. "There's always room," he replied. The fallout at Oakridge continued. Their stock price plunged, and executives scrambled to contain the damage. But the damage was done. Marcus wasn't seeking revenge. He was simply demonstrating that genuine human connections, fashioned relationship, building still held immense power in a world obsessed with digital disruption. 6 months after launching, the consortium had grown to over 20 members, expanding beyond Indiana to include small and mid-sized publishers across the Midwest. They caught the attention of major industry publications, hailed as sparking a relationship revolution in publishing. Marcus had not only preserved what mattered but had started a movement. As the Walsh Publishing Consortium's reputation grew, it wasn't long before the board at Oakridge Publishing took notice and panic. The company's revenue plummeted sharply, and the stock price began to nosedive. It was clear the exodus of loyal clients was having a devastating impact. Soon, Marcus received an unexpected call from Harold Blackwood, the longtime chairman of Oakridge's board. "Marcus, we need to talk," Harold said, his tone serious but tinged with regret. "Veronica's leadership isn't working. The company is hemorrhaging clients and revenue, and the board is worried about the future." Marcus listened carefully as Harold continued. "We want you to come back, but this time with authority. We want you as Chief Revenue Officer, overseeing all sales and client relations, above Veronica. We want you to rebuild what's been lost." It was an offer that should have been a triumph, but Marcus felt a mix of emotions. He understood the politics behind the scenes. The board hadn't approved his firing in the first place. Veronica's appointment had been a last-ditch push by some executives. Now, with the numbers crashing, they needed a proven leader. But Marcus wasn't sure he wanted to walk back into that chaos. He hesitated but didn't give an immediate answer. On his drive home, he mulled over the implications. The board wanted him not just to save Oakridge, but likely to dismantle the digital-first approach Veronica had championed, and perhaps even her tenure itself. Meanwhile, the consortium continued to flourish under Marcus's leadership. Independent publishers rallied around the cooperative model, valuing its blend of personal relationships and collective strength. Jacob, Marcus's former assistant director, reached out again, tired of the corporate shake-up. "Is there room for one more?" he asked. Marcus welcomed him warmly, knowing that the consortium wasn't just a business. It was a community grounded in trust and respect. When Oakridge's quarterly earnings were announced, the numbers told the story: a staggering 45% drop in revenue, with a sharp decline in client retention. Veronica blamed market disruption, but insiders knew better. The old ways of relationship building had been discarded, and the consequences were brutal. The board's offer to Marcus underscored a harsh truth: loyalty and trust are irreplaceable assets. But Marcus had learned that sometimes the best response isn't to return to the old stage. It's to build a new one, stronger and more authentic. While Oakridge Publishing struggled under Veronica's failing digital strategy, Marcus and the Walsh Publishing Consortium quietly expanded their influence. The consortium was no longer just a group. It had become a movement. Small and mid-sized publishers flocked to join, attracted by the promise of cooperation without losing independence. Marcus's model was simple but powerful. Publishers shared resources, distribution channels, and market insights without the red tape and depersonalization of corporate bureaucracy. Word spread fast. Within months, the consortium had grown beyond Indiana, pulling in publishers from across the Midwest. The industry press took notice, calling it the relationship revolution in publishing. For Marcus, it was a vindication of everything he'd believed in: that personal connections, trust, and genuine care couldn't be replaced by algorithms and digital dashboards. But the consortium's rise was also a direct challenge to Oakridge. They weren't trying to steal clients by aggressive poaching. Instead, their success was built on a simple truth. Clients followed the relationships they trusted. Long-standing clients who felt ignored or mishandled by Oakridge's new leadership naturally gravitated toward Marcus and his team. Back at Oakridge, tensions escalated. Veronica, feeling the heat, talked openly about legal actions to protect what remained of their client base. Jacob, Marcus's former assistant and now a defector, warned him, "They're watching you. Legal's concerned about your non-compete. They fear you might poach clients." Marcus was prepared. He knew the consortium didn't violate any agreements, since it wasn't directly soliciting Oakridge's clients, but offering an alternative platform for independent publishers. The consortium's cooperative model was fundamentally different, built on mutual respect, not corporate domination. As the consortium continued to grow, Marcus received a surprising call from Harold Blackwood, the Oakridge chairman. The board was ready to admit defeat and wanted to negotiate a partnership rather than a hostile takeover. Marcus politely declined. The publishers who joined the consortium sought freedom from corporate constraints, not a return to them. Marcus looked around at the bustling consortium office, a far cry from the glass towers of Oakridge. No executive suites here, just a community of passionate professionals committed to preserving what truly mattered in publishing. One evening, sitting by the water at Eagle Creek Park, the same place where he had often reflected during his toughest days, Marcus felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The journey had been unexpected, but it reminded him of a timeless truth. In a world chasing trends and quick fixes, the real revolution is remembering the power of people and relationships. Sometimes, getting fired isn't an end. It's the start of building something more authentic, more enduring. Months passed, and the Walsh Publishing Consortium thrived, becoming a beacon for those who valued authentic connections over flashy digital trends. Marcus watched proudly as publishers who once felt lost under Oakridge's new leadership now flourished with renewed passion and purpose. The consortium wasn't just surviving, it was reshaping the industry from the ground up. One crisp autumn afternoon, Marcus received a call from Jacob, his former assistant who had joined the consortium. "They're finally admitting it. The old ways matter," Jacob said with a laugh. Oakridge's new CEO just stepped down amid the chaos. Marcus smiled, knowing this wasn't just about corporate upheaval. It was a victory for every person who believed in the power of genuine relationships. Sitting on a bench by Eagle Creek Park, Marcus reflected on the journey. Losing his job had felt like the end, but it became the catalyst for something greater. The trust, the friendships, and the decades of hard work couldn't be erased by a single meeting or a change in strategy. Sometimes being forced out of the old path pushes us to build a new one that's truer, stronger, and more meaningful. Sometimes, life knocks us down just to show us a better way forward. When you face rejection or change, don't see it as failure, but as an opportunity to rediscover your true strengths. Authentic relationships and genuine care, whether in business or life, are irreplaceable. The newest tools or trends might fade, but trust built over time lasts forever. Stand firm in your values and success will follow you, even if the path looks different than you imagined. Hey, if this story moved you, drop a comment below and share your own moments of unexpected change. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because sometimes the best stories come from the toughest challenges. Let's grow stronger together!